I'm Jamilah King, and welcome to this special live edition of the Mother Jones podcast on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. It's over. The streets outside my apartment have erupted in celebration. All sorts of music and yelling and car horns. Former Vice President Joe Biden is projected to become the 46th president of the United States of America. A nail-biting count that dragged out for days, but now Biden has clinched the deal. And huge news, Vice President-elect Kamala Harris, so many firsts here. She will be the first Black woman, the first woman of South Asian descent, and the first daughter of immigrants to hold that position. She's now second in the line of presidential succession, a remarkable moment in American history. But there's no minimizing this part. Biden will take office amid multiple national crises and deep partisan divides. And the very transition of power is under threat. David Korn joins us not from his car, but where are you, David?
I am at the Biden Welcome Center in Delaware, the Constitution state, the state that gave us the next president of the United States. I was on my way to New York City when the news broke. I thought this was a good place to stop and contemplate what's happened. You can see there are a lot of people who are posing and taking pictures in front of the Biden Welcome Center. And it kind of reminds me of the difference between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. Donald Trump has his name on lots of high-end luxury products and buildings and things that don't relate to most of America. The Delaware, stop on the I-95 is one of the best in the world, and his name is on it because of his years of service as a senator from the small but great state of Delaware.
So, David, President Joe Biden, he did it. Trump will go. How did Biden do it?
Well, first he did it by not being Donald Trump, correct? He gave Donald Trump all the room Donald Trump needed to be Donald Trump, to be a racist, a misogynist, and basically an incompetent president who couldn't handle a pandemic. Because of Donald Trump, we've had tens of thousands of preventable deaths in this country, an economic calamity that could have been addressed much more effectively and probably much sooner, and it still hasn't been. So he, never got. It was kind of interesting. He kind of played a bit of rope-a-dope. If you remember Muhammad Ali's career, when he got kind of older and he was less aggressive, he would take the blows and he would just wait it out, and then strike, when the other guy had played himself out. And Donald Trump, certainly for most Americans, had played himself out long before now. So Biden just was slow and steady, nothing flashy. I'm the competent guy, I'm the decent guy, I'm the guy who cares that tens of thousands of our fellow citizens are dying in this pandemic. I'm the guy who cares about norms, cares about addressing both sides of the debate. I mean, he wasn't exciting in a lot of ways. He wasn't by far, he was not the most progressive candidate, but he took on, at this time of crisis, many of the progressive ideas that Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders to an extent, and he kind of embraced them, or at least made part of them his own. And he realized that's what the country needs now. So he was both flexible and steady, and didn't try to out-Trump Trump, didn't try to be that celebrity or reality TV show type of candidate. He's like, I'm Joe, you know who I am. And because of the pandemic, and because he's been around for 47 years, he didn't have to get out there and sort of prove himself or introduce himself. The public kind of knew who he was. So in a lot of ways, he was just a good stand-in for the anti-Trump vote. He's a safe guy who ran a safe campaign and really didn't let Trump throw him into the briar patch. Didn't get into the mud with Trump. He stood above it. And, you think about the campaign and how it was run, and there are very few mistakes that they made, right? People cribbled. wasn't out enough, perhaps campaigning, or he could have been more aggressive at times. But if you look at it, his debate performances, while not outstanding, were certainly sufficient. And he did what he had to do. And he showed that he was responsible by not holding super spreading events. So the good news was that more than half of the American electorate responded to his low key but responsible campaign.
David, I've covered Kamala Harris for years, and now we call her Madam Vice President. There's a lot of symbolism in that title for her, but what exactly is the job, and what does it mean in a Biden administration?
That's a really good question, and I think it's the focus has been on Trump, 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 Trump for so much of the last 4 years. It's good today to reflect on Joe Biden and his long career and the historic first of Kamala Harris. First woman, got closer, closer than Hillary Clinton was able to get, and first woman of color. It's astounding. It's astounding. Now, when it comes to the job of vice president, there really is no job listing. That you're basically supposed to stay alive until, if in case something happens to the president. The job of what you actually do is totally dependent upon the president and how he chooses to use you as vice president. Anybody who watched the great HBO series Veep knows that there's a lot of discretion there, although that was fictional. But there are times in the past when vice presidents haven't done much. Now, since basically George W. Bush, the presidents have been pretty damn important. Dick Cheney was a tremendous cheerleader for the war in Iraq and other aspects of the Bush presidency, some of the most controversial and deadly aspects. And of course, through the Obama years, Biden was pretty essential to Obama in negotiating deals with Congress and working on some key issues. And often he was the last guy in the room to talk to Obama before a major decision was made. Now, that was entirely up to Obama. So here, the interesting thing here is that we're going to have a guy as president who has been vice president. So I assume he has a pretty good idea about what he wants his vice president to be, what role in his administration of the government she will play. So maybe there will be particular issues that she latches onto. Maybe she'll be involved with a lot of outreach to the electorate. I mean, there's a lot you can imagine here. Right. And in the past, sometimes presidents have offloaded entire issues to the vice president. And so maybe she'll get a few. So we don't know, but it does seem from the outside, and you've written a lot about Kamala Harris, it does seem from the outside that they've established a pretty good relationship up to now, and that he appreciates what her talents, her energy, her ability to connect with people. And so, and the people around him who most of them worked in the Obama administration, they too know the value of having an effective vice president. So I would expect people who are hoping for her to have a good and productive role in the administration will see some of those expectations met.
David, Trump has a statement out. What has his reaction been so far, and what's his strategy now?
Well, he went golfing today. I mean, that's the first thing we should remember. After claiming that the American presidential election had been stolen, which would be one of the greatest crimes in American political history, and on a week when the pandemic is spreading and over 1,000 Americans are dying each day, what did he do today? He went golfing. And while he was on the links, maybe in between the third hole and the fourth hole, I don't know, maybe it was on the 19th green, sipping an iced tea or drinking a Diet Coke, he dictated or approved of a statement which basically said no, no, no. It was a tantrum, claiming that there's no reason for anyone to call the election, that every network, including Fox News, that every network is wrong, and that it's wrong for Biden to claim the mantle of president-elect, and that they will have more lawsuits coming. The lawsuits to date have been jokes. They've all been thrown out. They've all been about relatively minor matters, how close an election observer can be. There's been no proof anywhere across America of any significant fraud that has affected the vote count itself. So it was kind of a tantrum in a statement that he probably didn't write himself. And but it was fully in keeping with what we know about Donald Trump and what we would expect from him. It's not about moving ahead for the good of the country. You look at statements that came from Hillary Clinton, from George H.W. Bush, from others who have lost, from John McCain. They're all over the internet the last couple of days. And every single one of them has been gracious and has talked about what we need to do to heal the divisions that the election has caused or exacerbated. And Trump is just not going to do that. We know he's not going to do that. And thankfully, the guy coming into office has already been in office. He's been vice president. So in terms of transition, he and his team don't need a lot of help from Trump and the folks in the White House. And they will get all the briefings they need from the intelligence community and from the other agencies about matters that they are inheriting, policy issues and crises around the world. And they already know what they want to do. They have the pandemic plan that Donald Trump ignored. Mm. So he'll be off in the corner. And look, Fox News called it. Fox News anchors in the last 24 hours have started talking about the great Trump legacy, sort of as a way to usher him out gracefully. It's clear they've gotten the signal from Rupert Murdoch or somebody else or on their own that they need to help the crazy uncle get out of the house before the moving vans come with the new tenants. And he's just not going to play nice. He's not going to do it. He's not going to rise. Trump has never risen above himself. Mm. He just has never, ever done it. And so now we have a situation where the House of Representatives impeached Trump and the American people have removed Trump. And we're going to soon be, in terms of the government, in a Trumpless world.
Final question, David. It can't be left unsaid that there are deep divisions and Democrats took a big hit up and down the ballot. Can the nation unite while Trump resists conceding?
No. We will not have unification. We will not have kumbaya, a resolution. There are, 70 plus million people who end up voting for Trump. More than 75 million, I think, voting for Biden. Most of those folks voting for Trump don't want to be resolved, or don't want to see the differences resolved. They don't want to see bipartisan coalitions to address healthcare plans or immigration policy. So they will, stick to their guns. I hope that's just metaphorical, and form some sort of lost cause brigade, and claim that the vote was stolen from him and so on. Some of the people who voted for Trump will just, not care about what happens next. But there's not going to be a healing in a lot of ways. If you look at the people who accepted Trump and his incompetence and his bigotry and his cruelty, they're not looking for a healed America. They're looking to be part of a cultural, political civil war, and they are not going to see this as the final battle in that. So I think we're in for a lot of fighting and a lot of battles to come, and hopefully the majority of America that has said no to Trump, and some people who didn't vote, and a minority of those who voted for Trump, can find ways to make some progress on the issues we face, and in some ways isolate and segregate the Trump dead enders who will not give up the fight.
David Korn is our Washington, D.C. bureau chief. Thank you for joining us, and thanks to you for joining us. David, you are at the Joe Biden Welcome Center on the Delaware Turnpike. We really appreciate it coming on for this special show. To our viewers and to our listeners, you can watch this again on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. I'm Jamilah King, your host. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.